This week, there was a very touching moment from one of my all-time favorite baseball players, the great Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson made some comments about racism in baseball that I want to talk about for a few minutes. Stay with me. Hello, everybody. I am attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. And each and every week, we bring you at least one legal analysis of some story trending regarding politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you with the information you need to defy an unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell so you'll get notified every time we upload one of these powerful and informative videos. Reggie Jackson, my man Reggie Jackson. He made some comments this past week, I think it was last Thursday, about racism in baseball. I want to play that video, and then I got a couple things I want to share with you. Hey everyone, I am attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Recently, I took a look at our analytics, and I noticed something shocking. Many of you watch our videos, and I believe you enjoy them. But you haven't subscribed yet. What are you waiting for? Again, I was shocked because I know our content is empowering and informative. Plus, our 2024 goal is to have 150,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Please help us by hitting that subscribe button, especially you young folks. We particularly want to increase our number of young subscribers. Thanks for all your continued support. We appreciate it very much.
Reggie, the baton has been passed for over a century here. We've been talking earlier about if it wasn't for the Willie Mays, the Jackie Robinson, the Reggie Jacksons, the three of us wouldn't have an opportunity to play. How emotional is it for you to come back to a play that you played with one of the greatest teams around?
Alex, when people ask me a question like that, it's like, coming back here is not easy. The racism that I played here, when I played here, the difficulty of going through different places where we traveled. Fortunately, I had a manager and I had players on the team that helped me get through it. But I wouldn't wish it on anybody. People said to me today, I spoke, and they said, you think you're a better person? You think you won when you played here in Concord? I said, I would never want to do it again. I walked into restaurants and they would point at me and said, can't eat here. I would go to a hotel and they said, can't stay here. We went to Charlie Finley's country club for a welcome home dinner and they pointed me out with the N-word. He can't come in here. Finley marched the whole team out. Finally, they let me in there. He said, we're going to go to the diner and eat hamburgers. We'll go where we're wanted. Fortunately, I had a manager, Johnny McNamara, that if I couldn't eat in the place, nobody would eat. We'd get food to travel. If I couldn't stay in a hotel, they'd drive to the next hotel and find a place where I could stay. Had it not been for Raleigh Fingers, Johnny McNamara, Dave Duncan, Joe and Sharon Rudy, I slept on their couch 3-4 nights a week for about a month and a half. Finally, they were threatened that they would burn our apartment complex down unless I got out. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. The year I came here, Bull Connor was the sheriff the year before. And they took minor league baseball out of here because in 1963, the Klan murdered 4 black girls, children, in 11, 12, 14 years old at a church here and never got indicted. They were from the Klan. Life magazine did a story on them like they were being honored. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. At the same time, had it not been for my white friends, had it not been for a white manager, and Rudy, Fingers, and Duncan, and Lee Myers, I would have never made it. I was too physically violent. I was ready to physically fight some. I'd have got killed here because I'd have beat someone's ass, and you'd have saw me in an oak tree somewhere.
Reggie, Wow.
I can't even imagine. It's awful you had to go through that, but appreciate you sharing the rawness and the honesty of it with our audience. I mean, really,
We love you, Reg.
yeah. Thank you.
Man.
So there you have it right there.
That's a great history lesson.
That is the great Reggie Jackson. And they are in Birmingham, Alabama. And you heard Reggie talk about Bull Connors. He was the police commissioner of Birmingham, Alabama, when those 4 little black girls, those 4 babies, were killed in a church bombing. It was one of the most heinous acts of the civil rights movement. And if you think things have changed a lot, then all you got to do is think about what happened in the church in Charleston, South Carolina, Mother Emanuel, where a young white racist went into that church, sat and had Bible study with those people. They welcomed him with open arms. And after he finished Bible study, he pulled out a 9mm, I think it was, and murdered 9 people and left 1 living so she could tell what she witnessed. When I tell you that this country is deeply, deeply racist, deeply, I'm not making this up. It wasn't long after those 9 people were murdered in that Charleston church, Mother Emanuel, that a white racist went to Buffalo, New York, and killed, murdered in cold blood 10 people. It was right around the time that 3 white racists murdered Ahmaud Arbery. And the list goes on and on and on and on. Racism is so pervasive in this country that it is everywhere, including professional baseball. They asked Reggie Jackson a question, and man, did he answer it. And he gave stark details. Now, before I go further with that, let me say this. I love the game of baseball. It is my first sport. It is my first love in terms of a sport. I played the big 3 sports in school. I played baseball, again, my very first sport. I played Little League baseball in my hometown. The name of my team was the Orioles. I was a little guy. I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. I love the sport. I also played basketball. I played football. But my first love was the game and is the game of baseball. One of the things my wife and I love to do is we love to go to a baseball game here. We have the Texas Rangers, and we've had some good seasons, obviously, and we've had some bad seasons. But I love baseball, and I so well remember Reggie Jackson. He retired, I believe it was in '87. I think it was. I'm not sure about that. But I remember him winning one of the 5 World Series that he has. I was actually stationed in, let me get to some information here. I was actually stationed in Oakland, California, when Reggie was playing baseball. And I remember the year that I was in Oakland, the year that the Oakland A's won the World Series. But a little bit about Reggie. He played 21 seasons in Major League Baseball. Again, he played for the Oakland A's. He played for the Baltimore Orioles. He played for the Yankees. He played for the Angels. And he also played minor league baseball. So he was selected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1993. Overall, he had 2,584 hits over his career, won 5 World Series. That is a lot. I'm telling you, Reggie was a great, great baseball player. And so when we talk about baseball, obviously we also have the Negro League that brought so many great baseball players into Major League Baseball. Folks like Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, and some others that I can't think of right at this moment. And then, of course, there were the greats that I remember as a young boy. I remember Willie Stargell. I remember the great Willie Mays, who passed recently. may he rest in peace. Vida Blue. I could go down the list of great black baseball players. But I didn't know that they were dealing with the type of stuff that Reggie just described. I mean, that is horrible, being treated that way. And I mean, he kind of held that close to himself. I never heard about that. And so he tells this, and some people are shocked. Why is anyone shocked that a black man in the 70s experienced racism in Birmingham, Alabama? That's Birmingham, Alabama. That is the home of some of the most racist, white supremacist, ugliest, meanest people, racists in the world. Birmingham, Alabama. I just know in history, where the civil rights movement is concerned, just an awful, awful place. And so why anybody is surprised that even Reggie Jackson experienced that. And we know that Reggie Jackson and Willie Mays, Willie Stargell, Vida Blue, and then these more recent players, Barry Bonds, A-Rod, those guys that were sitting at the table there, Big Papi, Jeter, all of those guys, great baseball players. They're they are idols for some kids, including many white kids, but they still dealt with their stuff, especially back in the 70s. So I don't know why anyone is shocked. I am sorry that Reggie Jackson went through that, but that is what, as Childish Gambino said, this is America. And it's the reason why I do what I do. It's the reason why our mission statement is defying this unjust legal system and nullifying systemic racism. Because the battle, the fight, is not over. Not by a long shot. In fact, anytime you have one of the two major political parties operating under the banner of Make America Great Again, that tells me that they're looking back to those days where church bombings occurred regularly, black people were lynched regularly, and we dealt with straight up, outright Jim Crow. Now, I can't mention Jim Crow without thinking about Byron Donalds. Unfortunately, Byron Donalds is on record saying, or at least implying, that black families were doing better during Jim Crow. Well, Reggie Jackson just gave us just a small sample of what Jim Crow was all about. Even he, a famed baseball player, probably wasn't as well known then and honored then as he is now. But even he, if Reggie Jackson, the great Reggie Jackson, was called the N-word because he needed a place to sleep or a place to eat, can you imagine what other African-American people dealt with? And again, this was in the 70s. I'm old enough to remember, I've told you all this, I'm 62 years old. I can remember the tail end of Jim Crow. I remember it was in my third grade year that public schools were integrated. And that would have been I would have been, if it was my third grade year, I think I was maybe 8 years old. I was born in 62. So that was 1970, which was 16 years after the Brown versus Board of Education case. Because even after those two cases were handed down, white people fought the integration of public schools so hard that it took another 15 years of actually integrating the schools. And the U.S. Supreme Court was part of that problem because in Brown versus Board of Education 2, it said all deliberate speed. It used that term, which means you don't have to rush this. And they did not rush it. But yes, if the great Reggie Jackson And you could tell the guy was almost in tears as he recounted that. But I so applaud him for being raw, candid, and open about what he experienced. I have often heard about the so-called Chitlin circuit, which was black athletes, black entertainers would have to stay when they traveled in the South. They couldn't stay at regular restaurants. They couldn't stay at regular hotels and eat at regular restaurants. They had to stop at the African-American hotels, which were not many. There were some. They certainly weren't, most of them, as nice as those in the white community, but they couldn't stay there. I remember hearing some of the entertainers, I think the Motown entertainers, those different groups, the Temptations, Smokey Robinson, the Supremes, and on, talking about how they would have to just hold themselves when they needed to release themselves because they couldn't stop to a gas station or to a hotel or restaurant. They had to wait or stop beside the road somewhere and relieve themselves. That's called the chicken circuit. And so Reggie was actually relaying to us what his experiences were on the chicken circuit. So I had to just talk about this for two reasons. One, again, to just use Reggie's experience to say, this is the reason why we do what we do, because we're still in a fight. We're still in a fight. And secondly, I love the game of baseball and I love Reggie Jackson. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you from this story. We got to keep on fighting until we get exactly what we're entitled to, which is full equality and reparations. I am attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me as I talked about the sport that I love first, as I talked about one of my favorite athletes, and unfortunately, as I talked about America's original and continued sin, the sin of racism and white supremacy. Until the next time, peace.